Hi everyone and welcome back to another week on the channel. If you're new around here, I'm Jess and this is Alex. We're a couple from Cornwall in the UK with a passion for travel and adventure. We've had a few vans so far in our life, most importantly our pride and joy Norm, a Peugeot Boxer that we built into a camper van to explore the Nordic Arctic last winter. Since we've been back in the UK, we've been searching for the perfect summer camper for van life in Cornwall, which is when a few weeks ago we found our newest project, a T5 Volkswagen Transporter, which we plan to convert into an epic, compact, off-road adventure wagon that will allow us to explore the beautiful place that we live in this year. So if you are new here, a big thank you for tuning in. And for those of you who have been watching for a while, we hope you enjoy coming along with us for this next chapter.
Welcome back guys. So let's turn this plumber's van into a swamper van. Now that means lift kit and wheels. So without further ado, let's crack on. A 40mm lift kit from a company called SEK Suspension that are based in Europe. Now they very kindly sent us this and I am insanely excited to get this on because currently it looks like a bit of a plumber's van and I'm not about that. We've also got new wheels that we're going to be putting on in this video. So this van is going to go from full plumber spec to adventure spec in one video. So let's get on with it.
Starting with getting the van on a lift, you've always got to give it that shake test. Once I knew it was all safe, I started with the back, removing the wheels. Typically they didn't want to come off, so some opposite side of banging eventually broke them loose. I then started dropping the bottom shock bolts on both sides. This allowed the whole rear to drop enough to get the rear springs out and hopefully get the lift kit and the springs back in without too much of a fight.
And that is that side off. So you can see now, you've got much more movement and actually you can see how a sway bar works. So if I focus on that wheel over there, you can see both move. The sway bar then links the two together. Now I'm guessing, seeing as the top of the spring has this flat perch here, the lift kit block goes on top of that because there's a nub in the top of the chassis there. So let's just grab the lift kit and have a look. See, the lift kit is just a donut. Now up inside here, there is a little nub that fits over. So I'm going to assume that fits in there. So you can see how that just sits on top of the spring. The difficulty here after some playing around, the driver's side one is in. So you can see how the lift block works. You can see it up in the top of there, if it will focus. You can see it up in the very top. So the lift block goes in like that, spring perch goes on. The interesting thing here is going to be the distance between here and here and trying to get that back on. So, round two. It's actually the rubbers that are a pain in the ass to get over. To get the spring in isn't horrendous. It would be so much easier just to have a second person to push down on this. I've just got nothing to get hold of. There you go. Right. Number two is in, and we are, where's the spring perch? So you've got to look for where your pigtail ends. So you can see the pigtail here and fits in like that. And what's ironic is I'm pretty sure Tom has just arrived. Whew. Right, both are in. Let's get this all back together. So that is the rear completely bolted up with the lift kit in. So that is the rear done, and it's ready for the new wheels and spacers to go on. Now it's time to work on the bastard one. Okay, so in here should be fairly straightforward. You get 2 shock bolts there, drop link here, and then drop the shock out. But it's Volkswagen, so this pinch section is always fun. But let's crack on with that and see if we can get it out. Snapping a bolt in that top mount there wasn't on my list of things for the day. Man, that's annoying. The bottom one's out and moving freely. The top one is in there, pretty rock solid. So yeah, now starts getting that out. This doesn't want to come off either. This is just going to be a fight all the way, I think. So, yeah, should be fun. I'll join you when I've made progress. First strut is finally out. So, the van is not going to be that drivable because the drop link has had to be cut. So, yeah. And benefit of Saturday weekend. So, I'm going to strip the other side down, and then once it's stripped, it literally just all has to go back together. I've soaked this side in WD-40, so hopefully we can save this side. But I'm going to do this on camera because it takes forever. So you can see the spacer is now on. So essentially what happens is you take your top cap off, put the spacer in between your bearings inside here, this plate like that, and that is it. Oh. Good morning and welcome to day number 2, showing reasons why I should have paid somebody else to do the work. So, sit wrap from yesterday.
I can't believe you came home and didn't get the job done. It's the first time Alex has ever been defeated
In a day.
working on a vehicle.
This is the first time I've ever been defeated in a day. So, my advice would be, the SEK kit, fantastic, right? The fit of the product, brilliant. Can't fault the quality. However, on their website, they offer 20, 30 and 40 mil options.
And of course, Alex had to go for the biggest
I went for
option.
40. Do yourself a favour, go for 20. Because getting that bottom ball joint in was a 2-person job where you had to use a screwdriver to try and lever in to get one, and then lever in the other to get another. And you had to take the ball joint out of the hub, and it just became a whole thing. So yeah, do yourself a favour, 20 mil, be a nice little subtle raise. So we're going to see what it's like to drive. I get the feeling this might be a touch of a drive shaft killer, but we'll see. Hopefully the drivability is alright. However, we're going to get it back together. Yesterday we snapped a bolt in the hub, so I'm going to find a random one to put in that is double bolted, so the original bolt is still there for one of them. And we just got to get everything back together, even the wiper mechanism, because that had to come out. Thank you, Volkswagen. So yeah, we're going to get it back together.
Wait, before you carry on, can I say something? I told you so.
Shut up. Do one. Can I say something? Jess decided she wanted to help for this, so we started getting all the wiping mechanism back in. Turns out there's a little door, if you undo 2 bolts and a panel slots straight out, that would have avoided all of this. I then got to getting all the suspension bolts back in and found a replacement for the one I snapped the day before.
All the suspension stuff is done. Now I don't know if it's too dark to tell, we're missing a drop link. It's not end of the world. For the short distance it's going to do tonight to go home, and basically come back tomorrow to have a new one fitted. It's just Sunday, I can't get the part. So I've attached the other side, which means as it goes down and the suspension loads up, this should lift out of the way of the tie rod, which is currently contacting, and we should be good. So the next step to getting the wheels on, which is the bit I'm excited for, is wheel spacers. Now, there's a lot of chat around wheel spacers, how safe they are, etc. I've run them on a lot of vehicles. What I don't do is buy cheap ones, so I will always invest in something slightly better. These are hub-centric 5x120. Now that is what you need to fit on a transporter. So 5x120 basically means the distance between these is 120mm and there's 5 of them. I've gone for a 20mm thick spacer. This should space out the wheels that I'm putting on just right, purely because the wheels we got for free. Tom did balance them up yesterday and said that there is some that definitely need to go on the back and not on the front, so we will see how that goes. Now, if you don't know what wheel spacer is, it basically does what it says on the tin. It spaces out the wheels. So you put this onto your hub and then you put your wheel onto this. Now, I would always recommend, and this comes along with a safety advisory here, go hub centric. So in the middle, you will see there is a little ring that sticks out further than the spacer. Now that is your hub. And on here, you have your hub as well. Now, this is what takes the actual weight of the vehicle into the wheel. The bolts are there purely to hold the wheel on. The hub here is what does the weight carrying. So you can get spacers without the hub-centric ring on. I highly recommend you do not do that. So always go for a bit more of an expensive one and get hub-centric. And if you ever want to be able to get them back off again, clean up this surface and cover it in copper slip. Because I've had it before. When I was younger, I did this and couldn't get them back off for love nor money, ended up chiseling them off and ruining the spacer and the brake disc. So always clean it up, put copper slip on. It just stops them seizing together because you've got an aluminium spacer against a steel brake disc. So obviously aluminium and steel, I can't remember what the exact word is, but they react to each other when in contact and will cause oxidation of the lesser metal, which is the aluminium. So let's get this cleaned up. Wire brush on a drill. We'll get some copper slip on it, hence why I have a glove on, and we will go from there and get the wheel on. So all I've got, like I say, wire brush in a drill and just clean off any corrosion that's already there. Something like that, and get your copper slip. You don't need huge amounts of it, but I just sort of tend to, if you get a bit on and then just kind of, you basically want to make sure there's no surface of steel that isn't covered, but don't sort of lather it on. It just wants to be a thin coating like I'm doing here. Make sure you get round your bore in the middle. So you can see that is just a thin coating on there. Like I say, just make sure. And then simply your spacer slips onto the centre bore and sits like that. Now obviously you can see there is no up and down movement on that centre bore. So that is rock solid on there, but just give it a quick few spins and it'll coat the spacer then with the stuck now because of suction. It'll soak it with copper slip. And then the type I have is a bolt through spacer. So again, there's two different types. You can bolt to hub and then bolt to wheel, or you get the kind that have longer bolts like this, which as you can see, stick out much further to compensate for the spacer. So let's show you the wheels. The wheels we have gone for are these, which are the mini tyres. As you can tell, they are not new, but they have still a good amount of tread in. Now these are the same tyres we've got on the big van, and we've had great luck with these and they last really well. So these are Toyo Open Country 83s, attached to standard Steelies, which are painted black. Now if you remember last week in the roof rack video, I mentioned that I was painting something else in the corner. That is these. So they're in gloss black, which at the minute looks very bright because they're against a dirty tyre. But hopefully they should do us. Like I said, Tom mentioned that they've got some quite big weights on them, so it's going to be interesting to see what these are like to drive with. He said we might have some vibration, so in the end we might end up replacing these with another set, but they were free and it gets them on. So let's bolt the first one up and see how it looks. Well, they fit. It's a good sign. You always worry when something's free about how well they will fit, or if they're actually the right thing. Don't worry, I haven't just absolutely razzed them up. The gun is set to 1. So that is probably only 40 or 50 pounds. There we go. That is the first wheel on there. The roof rack, when you stand back, is now actually starting to make sense with it. Right, let's get the rest of them on. The wheels are very loosely on, so I'm going to drop it off the lift, drive it out, and I'll torque them up. Now, freshly painted wheels, torque them after about 50 miles is usually what I'd recommend. But again, you do you. Not offering safety advice. So yeah, I'm going to drive it out. I'll put you way back over here so you can see it drive out, we can get the height. It's just in contact with the floor at the minute. Let's see what it looks like. That's a bit taller, eh? So to me, that doesn't look horrendously tall. The rear is taller than the front, which is good because obviously the rear's going to get weight put in it. So yeah, I am very happy with that. It does look good. Now, I forgot to take measurements before I put this lift kit on, but I know there's a transporter out in the yard, so I'm going to quickly go look like a weirdo, take some measurements, and we'll find out how true of a lift we've actually got to the stated 50mm. I've just been across the yard. Now, remember what I said a minute ago about let's find out if it's a true height. Obviously, we're not going to know that because the wheels lift it. So, standard front
is 74.5. This is now 83.5, so it's a 9 centimetre lift on the front, which that would make sense with the lift and the tyre that's on it. More than happy with that. The rear is sat higher, much higher than the front. So the standard rear is 75, the lifted rear is 87.5. So on the rear, we've actually gone up 12.5 centimetres. We've got nearly a 5-inch lift on the back, which I know you may be thinking right now, makes it look a little bit odd because it's kind of raked. However, it's a van. So the minute you put weight in the back of there, that back is going to start to come down. So actually, by the time it's got everything in for the build out, it's probably going to sit just about level, which I don't think we could ask more for. But between the front and the back, there's currently a 4 centimetre height difference. Right, I'm going to take it for a spin outside, see what it drives like, and then we'll come back. Having just taken it outside, I had an absolute bum puckering moment. I drove over, there's a rain gutter at the end, and it made one hell of a racket. And I suddenly realised it's not got a tie rod in one side, so it will make a racket. ABS light was on, but that's turned off as soon as I drove it a little ways. But it's in, and it looks good. The main thing is that I noticed is getting in and out of it. That's quite different now. But check her out. Look at the ground clearance on that. For all the off-roading that we can do with two-wheel drive. But yeah, just look at that. She's got a bit more presence to her now, and the roof rack suddenly makes a bit more sense. And I really like how that looks. So I'm gonna get tidied up, we'll head home, and then we'll go outside probably later this evening for some beauty shots. So I'll see you guys later on. What do you think?
It's a bit different, isn't it?
It's cool though.
It's very high on the back.
Yeah, well, weirdly the back is higher than the front, but once we've filled it with stuff, like furniture and all that kind of crap, it will drop down anyway on height. The roof rack makes sense now.
Yeah, it looks more cohesive already.
Yeah.
Well done.
We absolutely love how it's looking. We think it looks absolutely fantastic. Thank you to SEK Suspension. I realise I've said that wrong all the way through this. SEK Suspension. Go and check them out. If you guys are after lift kit, it's the same lift kit we used on the Mini on the rear. We absolutely love them. Good price, good products, 100% couldn't fault it. So go and check them out. I'll put a link in the description below. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Next week we're going to be finishing the external transformation, so make sure you tune in for that. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.